And hello, everyone, on this Thursday evening, December 19th, 2019. Welcome, I'm Roy Potter, and of course, this is Nightcap. And I can't believe I'm even going to talk about this. As you know, I've had some requests because people have noticed that I've dropped some weight. We're not going to talk about how much and those things. It was significant, at least for me. But I thought, since I was asked about it, that it might be something that would make for a good discussion. So, welcome as you come in. Hello, everyone, again, and the chat is on. I've been struggling a little bit with the color and the lighting tonight. I'm still not quite got this new system down to where I can figure out everything just the way it needs to be. But hopefully it'll be okay for what we're doing tonight, and hopefully the stream will not go down. We are having a snowstorm here. Any of you watching the weather know that storm is starting to cross the west now and headed east. So anyway, hello everyone. So what brought this up? Well, as I said, some people have been asking me. They've said, gee, are you okay? We notice you're losing some weight, is everything okay? What's your secret? What's going on? So, I'm not a dietitian. I can't give you advice on, what you should do for dieting or for nutrition or anything like that. I'm just going to tell you what I did, actually what I do, and the reason why I started that. I've always been in shape. Being in the Army and on the police department and other types of things like that I've done, I've always been in shape. I was always within the Army's height-weight ratio, body fat, all of that, usually well underneath any problem with that. And I was quite active. There was a time when in the Army PT tests, I'd max them out. And so it really wasn't a problem. I was actually getting to the point where I was running about 3 times a week, anywhere from 2 to 5 miles, depending upon, and I would actually run the entire time. Well, I had some injuries earlier on in my service and later as well. And so, I had to start being careful about what I did, because I did have a problem with my right ankle, my right knee, and my right hip. So I kind of backed off a little bit, and of course I kept eating the same way. I wasn't eating unhealthy food, but I wasn't really being careful about what I was eating. I was eating quite a bit of sugar, quite a few carbohydrates, breads, rices. You get the idea. Not donuts. I've never been a fan of donuts, so I don't fit that particular aspect of what people think about police and that type of thing. But at any rate, and I still kept in pretty good shape. And then in 2000, well, it's been about four years ago, between 4 and 5 years ago. Well, when I lost my wife, that was bad enough. That caused some things, but that didn't cause any weight gain. If anything, I lost some during that period of time. But over the years after that, I slowly gained a little bit back. And again, I wasn't overly heavy, and I don't have any before and after pictures to show you. I don't have that. I figure you can go back on the videos and see those. I'm not going to make a big deal about it. But I was getting a little heavier under the chin. You could see it in my neck, in my face. Certainly in my abdominal area, and even around my wrists. It was getting to the point where my watch was tight. So some people could say, well, it could be water retention and those types of things. No, no, I was just, eating the wrong stuff and not exercising as much as I should. Well, then, like I say, about 4 or 5 years ago, I'm not going to explain exactly what happened, but I got poisoned, and it wasn't like because I was experimenting with drugs or anything like that. It was, and I'm not so sure it was an accidental poisoning. Okay, but it did damage me in some areas, and it took me a while to recuperate from that. As a result of that, I had some difficulties with my pancreas and my liver, just so that you know. And so I have this healthcare professional that's a very good friend of mine, and I also have some healthcare professionals elsewhere. And I saw what they did to my wife, and I wasn't going to go through that. I just didn't figure it was worth it. So these folks, I'm not going to say who they are, what the situation is, but basically I got on a supplement program. I'm not even going to tell you what those were, because we're going to talk about weight loss, not what I was doing to try to heal myself necessarily. We got on a supplement program, quite rigid. Okay, I still do it today, by and large, for the most part. There are a few things I'm not taking now that I was then, but basically it's the same, and I'm regimented with it. I don't miss it. Okay, I do it every single day. But one of my healthcare guys said, "Look, one of the things you need to do, and this is I didn't even hear about the keto diet. Okay, so we're not going there yet." He said you need to get back to where you're eating lean meats, hearty type vegetables, not so many fruits because of the sugar involved. A little bit's okay, and select nuts and those types of things. He says basically what you need to do is start eating like your ancestors 200 to 300 years ago and further back were eating. And I went, wow. So what about wheat? And he says, no, you probably need to cut out all grains of that nature. No flour, no sugar. Grains are good, but I was having some other problems in my digestive system. I wouldn't say it was Crohn's disease, but it was very similar to that. So breads were just out. As most of you know who followed me, I still kept up with the beer for a while. But if you hadn't noticed in some of my uploads over the last year or so, I've even been slowing down on that. And if it is a beer, it's a very low carb calorie beer. But the problem is that they're made from grains. So I can only partake in small amounts and not a lot. So at any rate, the paleo diet was what I went on, and the fellow that was helping me out, and also another person, they said, look, you don't want to just jump into this diet. You want to ease into it over a period of time. Cut out little things here and there. Reduce your portions, especially in the wheats and the corns and those types of things, the grains. Certainly potatoes, back off on those. I'll tell you an interesting story about potatoes in a few minutes. Remind me if I forget. But at any rate, so it wasn't all at once. Okay, it was I gradually weaned myself off of sugar and basically carbohydrate. Now again, I didn't know about the keto diet. I was talking about the paleo eating. I mean, even my meat, I wouldn't. In the past, I've liked well done meat, but on the paleo diet, you have to. About the most you can cook it is medium to medium well, and usually medium is about as far as they want you to go. Really, honestly, other than making sure the internal temperature is right so you don't get sick, they want it as red as possible. Okay, like I said, it is a paleo diet. And a lot of raw foods, raw vegetables, raw select nuts, things like that. And again, the first thing that you do when you start backing off, like potatoes and breads, is you start to increase your calorie intake in other areas, right? Or if you cut off the sugar, definitely that. So that's why I say it's kind of a balance. So I moved over into the other paleo type diets, the raw vegetables, the select nuts, no breads. Sugar, I was down to next to nothing. But I didn't use sweetened drinks. I'm not into aspartame, saccharin, any of those things. I don't like the aftertaste. I never have. So I never went to any kind of artificial sweetener. Oh, I tried a few here and there, stevia for one as an example. But the basic bottom line is actually, and I didn't even withdraw from sugar entirely, other than not eating as many, the really high sugar fruits. But what I did do, I cut out milk for the most part because of the lactose in the milk. Um, the fats weren't the problem; it was the sugars in the milk. I backed off from that a little bit, and I did cut out. I went cold turkey pretty much on white refined sugar, and I moved into raw sugar, with the molasses in it and those types of good things. But eventually, I even dropped off the raw sugar. So now, probably when you really started noticing the weight coming off was early last summer. And that's when all of this kind of synergized and came together. And very importantly, I couldn't run like I used to because of my injuries and getting older for that matter. I didn't have the wind anymore, but I would walk run anywhere from 2 to 3 miles every other day or so, about 3-4 times a week. I would go 3 miles. I had to work up to it. It wasn't initially that, but I was doing it pretty constant there, pretty consistently, 2 to 3 mile walk runs. And what I mean by walk runs is you walk for say a quarter mile, then you run for a quarter mile or so, and it would vary, of course, depending upon the inclines and other things. But basically, it was a 3 mile walk run, and what I did discover, and I know a lot of you folks who are into these things know it, it's not really even exercise that takes off the weight. It's what you eat. You can. Alex Jones used to talk about it. He used to exercise, like crazy, every day, and he couldn't lose the weight. It wasn't until he changed what he was eating that he noticed the difference, and that was certainly the case with me. So I was on this paleo diet, and eventually, of course, I started to reduce my portions, not just what I was eating, but the portions of the good stuff that I could eat. And it's the tricky part of doing that, as you probably all know, is you still have. First of all, I was keeping up my supplements, so that's good. But you have to be careful not to lose foods that are really good for you, that are going to give you the nutrients that you need naturally, not even in supplements, right? So that was the tricky part, and I experimented with that for quite some time, and came up with what seemed to work pretty well. I was feeling good. I had energy. Plenty of protein, of course, which is very similar to the keto diet. And really, the paleo diet and the keto diet are so, now that I know, are so close that there's almost no difference between them. I mean, really, there isn't. But I did cut out, like I said, almost all carbohydrates. The potatoes were the hardest thing for me, potatoes and rice. Instead of using rice now, we use cauliflower, minced cauliflower, which is something that most of you probably already know about as well. See, I told you wouldn't learn anything really new here, right? So the potatoes were the big thing in rice because I've always liked potatoes and rice, and that was even more so than breads. Yeah, even more so than breads. It was hard to cut out the potatoes and the rice. The potatoes, however, I found out from a daughter of mine who did some research. Northern Europeans didn't really survive on potatoes until after the New World was discovered, and they got them from Peru. Now, that's what she's telling me. Some of you might have some more information on that, but the point was it wasn't really a Northern European food, which, and I'm primarily from Scandinavia, is my background, primarily Britain too, but at any rate, it's the European type people. Now, everybody will say, well, what about the Irish potato famine? They were eating potatoes then. Yeah, that's true, they were, but that was actually relatively recently in the historical record. So the point is the potatoes never did quite settle with me. I always noticed that I had some gastrointestinal problems after I ate them, and bread too. Of course, there we go back to possibly the gluten in in the grains. I'm not certain that that's what it was, but there was no question when I gave up the breads, the potatoes, not so much the rice, but that was still a source of a little bit too much carbohydrate. When I gave up the potatoes and the breads, virtually, virtually all of my gastrointestinal problems went away. All of them. Even the problems I had with digesting other foods, because my pancreas and my liver had been damaged to some extent when I had gotten poisoned. So I've stayed on that program. And like I said, I don't have a before-after picture for you. I think that I thought about it, and I thought that's going a little too far. I think that if they've asked me what I've done, they've already noticed it, so I don't really have to show it. And I wasn't terribly out of shape, not terribly, but I certainly wasn't the lean machine I am now. My body fat is probably down, I'm guessing because I haven't had it really measured, but my body fat is probably down around 12 to 15% top. I think it probably vacillates in that area. Prior to actually getting on the program and really doing it religiously, I was probably up around 25%, and I wouldn't even doubt that I was as high as 30. I might be exaggerating a little bit there, but the point is that I noticed it. I can tell you waist sizes. Now, I've always had large hips. It comes in the Potter family. And I remember, when I was in uniform or even in plain clothes, and I'd be carrying a weapon and a collapsible baton and some, those accoutrements, handcuffs and things. I'd wear those, and I even looked wider. And I remember some of the guys that worked with me and some that worked for me were brave enough to say, "Man, you've got wide hips," which I did anyway. But that didn't help any. Having that, I was a great shape for soccer, and I played soccer, and the fact that I had a lot of this center of mass low, I was really good at gymnastics. So I excelled in gymnastics and soccer. Not so much football. As a matter of fact, I didn't do that at all, actually. I tried out and decided that was not the way for me to go. But at any rate, so I do have these wide hips naturally. My size in high school was probably a 33, and then through college 33 to 34, and then as I was getting older, in my 30s or so, I vacillated between 34 and 36. But after I had this episode where I got sick from this foreign substance, again, it wasn't because I was taking illicit drugs or anything like that. It was a whole nother circumstance, which if I told you about, it just wouldn't be fair at this point. But at any rate, when I kind of gave up on some of those things, watching my exercise and that type of thing, my waist size went from 36 to 38 to 40 to 42. Okay, yeah. So after I got on this program, it was slow at first. It vacillated. If any of you who have been on a weight loss program and you do it right, you know that muscle weighs more than fat does. So as you lose your fat, and if you're exercising and gaining muscle, you're really not noticing a change in your weight. As a matter of fact, sometimes it'll actually go up because the muscle weighs more. But what you do notice is that your physique, so to speak, your size does shrink. And so the first place that I noticed that, of course, was I went from a 42 to a 40. And then when I started going from, dropping down from there, that's when I started noticing, that my face you could see it in my face and in my neck and in my jaw and even in my wrists. My legs, not so much. My legs have always been big from soccer and the types of exercise that I did. I have huge calf muscles and thigh muscles. And so I'm sure there was a little bit there, but not to where I could really notice it. But I did notice it, basically from the hips up. I did notice that. So that's what I've done. I've been on this program now. Like I said, it's been a few years, and it took a while to make the adjustment. The healthcare professionals that helped me with this, the people that were advising me, did not want me to make the change suddenly. I'm not saying that that's the way. You have to find out. You probably want to talk to a dietitian or a healthcare professional or somebody like that to find out how you should proceed. If you even need it, you might not. But if you do, they might say you can move a little faster. But I think in my case, it worked out just right, even though I didn't see the results that I wanted right away. It took quite some time for it to really show up. So yeah, Michael Friend says he went from a 42 to a 36, and I could probably get into a 36 right now, but I vacillate right in there. Actually, I could get into it. I tried one on and I could, but my problem is I do have these big, huge soccer thighs. So my waist size really is 36, but my thighs will not let me get into jeans that are 36. So I usually will get a 38, and then I have to, draw up the belt really tight. So I'm probably very, very similar to what you've gone through. Okay, so that's the story of why I dropped in weight, how I got it in the first place, how I dropped in it, the process, the type of foods that I'm eating that keep it off. One of the major things that you find out, and again, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, you don't eat after 6 p.m. at night. As a matter of fact, if you can have your last meal between 4 and 5 in the afternoon, that's even better. If you need a snack later, a handful of select nuts, almonds are good, of course. Something like that works out real well. I notice Alex Jones and protein bars are pretty common now. You can find protein bars, but they're good for snacking, and they'll have more. A good protein bar will have more protein than carbohydrate. And I won't show you the type that I have. It's not Alex Jones. His were a little too high in carbohydrates for me. So I have I did some shopping around. I talked to some trainers and some other people, and they got me on to a protein bar, actually two different ones, that the protein is like 21 grams in the bar, and the carbohydrate is down like 2 grams of carbohydrate, 2 to 4 right in there. You'll have fiber, but that doesn't count, and you have sugar alcohols, and they don't count. But I'm down, so the protein bar is about 20 to 21 grams of protein, and right around 2 to 4 grams of carbohydrate. So you see, you're burning off the carbohydrate really fast, and the protein helps you to build your muscle if you're exercising. If you're not, it's still just a good snack to eat, and it helps you to keep your weight under control. At some point, and I've actually already reached it, you reach what's called a homeostasis or a stabilization. And at that point, you stop vacillating. You stay at that weight with little effort, as long as you don't binge frequently. I can go out and I can have a fairly substantial dinner with friends. Again, I won't eat the breads as much as I love breads. Wow, good dinner rolls and multigrain breads. If I have a slice of bread, it's usually once or twice a week, and it's usually at breakfast. I guess that surprises nobody, right? Because I'm such a big fan of breakfast. But on this diet, that's why you become a big fan of breakfast, because if you're eating your last meal between 4 and 5 in the afternoon, and it's not a filler up type of meal. All of your meals are, you come away just a little hungry. That's the idea. You don't want to feel stuffed or feel bloated or any of those things. So you come away, say 5 o'clock in the afternoon, no later than 6. You might have a few, a handful of nuts, or I mean a small handful. I don't mean a lot. I mean a little handful of nuts you'll have. So you don't eat again until in the morning, and boy, breakfast is just so wonderful. So I'm a big fan of breakfast, and like I say, I will have a piece of toast once or twice a week with that. So that's basically how it works. Yes, eggs are fine. The cholesterol problem. Some people say, well, doesn't this mess up your cholesterol? You know, again, I can't give medical advice on that, obviously, but that has not become a problem for me. As a matter of fact, I had more cholesterol problem prior to this. And I think it probably has more to do with, at least in my situation, the weight, I think, is more of a problem than the amount of cholesterol. Not that it can't be a problem. Very thin people can have heart attacks and clogged arteries and things like that. But in my case, that's not what happened. The cholesterol actually got in a better situation. Of course, again, you want to deal with that with a healthcare professional to make sure that that it works for you and that you're not hurting yourself, because you can, when you go on these types of diets, you can hurt yourself. You can be without a proper nutrient or something and cause some organ damage, or you could hurt your bones, or whatever. So make sure that you're doing it with somebody who knows what they're doing. Maybe you're professionals yourselves, and you're already figuring all this out and you're in great shape or whatever. But it is possible to do. So that's basically why I did it and how I did it. And like I say, I'm at that stabilized level now where I'm staying right there at that size 36 in the waist, but I get the 38s for comfort in the thigh area. Okay. And that's the story. And I thought maybe since so many people had asked, and it hasn't been just one or two, it's been quite a few, that I would go ahead and discuss it. It's not something I would normally do, I guarantee you. But I figured Nightcap was a good time to do it. So let's go to chat and see what some of your experiences have been. And this might be kind of fun. Okay. No news tonight. I probably will do a broadcast or a live stream tomorrow morning, because something has happened that I would like to cover, because it kind of goes along with all the things I've been concerned about. But just to let you know, I'm probably going to do it, but we're not going to talk about any news tonight. Okay. Oh, by the way, the picture that you see in the background there, just so you know, that is in Hawaii. And I actually took that picture from the restaurant there in Waikiki. And that picture I took in probably, I would guess it was probably 2003 or 4. Right in there. Okay. So that is a picture I took. And on the OBS, you can't, it's actually a larger picture than that, but it won't quite fit into the window. So but it was a very pretty evening. The water was warm, a real nice little breeze coming in off the Pacific there, and very, very enjoyable. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Starting to feel like a doctor's office. Waiting. Mike Guyver. You do have a sense of humor. I'm glad to see that. Okay, sometimes I think you're a little too serious, but yeah, you have a great sense of humor. Great, great, great. Deplorical, age 57, weight 220. That will soon be on the decline. No more popcorn. No more crack. Crack. I don't know what that means. I'm sure it's not what it looks like. I mentioned popcorn, as a matter of fact. Popcorn used to be a weakness of mine. I loved it. And it's low in calories. But it had two problems with it, and I think you already know what I'm going to say. The first was it's a grain, right? So when I'd eat popcorn, I'd get the gastrointestinal problem like I would when I'd eat, wheat or any of those grains. That was the first thing. And the other thing about popcorn is that it can irritate your intestines and your colon. And it is a carbohydrate. It's still a carbohydrate. So I cut it out completely. Even though it was low calorie, it was still high on the carbohydrate list. So that was another thing I gave up. It's really not that good for you. Welcome, Lieutenant Colonel Flacca. Are you referring to the quarterback? Does he talk about this? Is that what you're doing? That's okay too. Edelson James, I made it tonight. Missed Roy's post for about 2 weeks. Hello everyone. Well, where you been, Edelson? I have noticed that I don't expect everybody to be here all the time. Actually, I'm really surprised. I when I get people here, and it's like, family. It really is. I haven't, as you all know, I haven't really cultivated this entire thing that much. And it's not really so much a hobby, as you know. I had people telling me, I could have hundreds of thousands of subscribers if I had, really pushed it, but that really wasn't my goal. So I appreciate you being here, though. I think that's great. Thank you very, very much. Oh, Gordon Noog, you're from the Big Island, and then you probably recognize that picture from Oahu, don't you? Okay. Oh, I had a shoemaker. I get depressed if I miss Roy. That's pretty nice. Thanks a lot. Fast in between seasons. Mike Guyver. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Fasting is another part of the process. I've talked about it before. I fast not often. I mean, it's not like I fast, 3 or 4 times a week. That's not what I do. But yeah, a good 24 to 48, even 72-hour fast occasionally does you a lot of good. You have to make sure you're hydrated. That's very important. But in my situation, what happens, and I've heard this, I can't swear that this is a fact, but I've heard that if you can fast for 72 hours, it helps you to develop your stem cells that help to, replace bad cells, keep cancer at bay, make you healthier, repairing, your DNA and stuff like that. I didn't know that, but I have fasted off and on my whole life. Usually a minimum of 24 hours. I have gone as long as 4 days, I think. Not lately, that was years ago. But yeah, fasting occasionally is very good for you. And as you say, Mike Guyver, between seasons is a good idea. Yeah, that's a good time. It falls at the right time. Don't try to fast during times like Thanksgiving and Christmas. I tell you, that don't work. It's just too hard. You have too many temptations, and you're missing out on the social aspects of the meals and things like that. So don't try that. But between seasons is good. Winter solstice, yeah, winter solstice, spring equinox, summer solstice, and the vernal or the autumnal equinox. That's a great time. Great idea, Mike. Thanks for bringing that up. Okay, glad I'm 5x5, Edelson. Thank you so much. Now this is Bill Sibley. He's age 53, 6 feet, 186 pounds. Very good. PT test: 56 push-ups, 58 sit-ups, 13:30 in the 2-mile run. Wow, good job. Yeah, that's good. I like to hear people that are in good shape. You're at 6 feet and 186. You're doing real well, along with your abilities there. I had a shoemaker. Eat one meal a day. Yeah, I played with that for a little while. The one meal a day idea. I'm not saying that's a bad idea, but human beings are grazers. We really weren't meant to eat one big meal. All right, one feast-like meal. We're really not meant to do that, and it does tax our system sometimes. I'm not saying that you can't eat one big meal and just get all the calories and nutrients you need for the day, but then you start, that thing where you want to start picking. At least I did. So what I do is I graze during the day. I don't. Breakfast is my only really big meal. Other times, I'm eating, bits and pieces, basically. Like I said, a handful of nuts, a salad, and salads are okay. You stay away from the sugary type of vegetables like tomatoes and those types of things. But the hearty vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, spinach, things like that in the salads, nuts, yeah. So I eat smaller portions throughout the day. Breakfast is the big one, as I've already said. I will eat a pretty hearty breakfast. By noon, I'm probably having a protein bar or maybe a salad. Then maybe some grilled chicken, something like that. And then in the evening, I'll sit down and have a little meal, but it's usually like half or a third of the portion of what everybody else eats. Because I don't want that to be sitting in there, in the evening. And then, of course, if I get a little hungry, I will take a few nuts, like I was saying, later in the evening. Okay. Oh, headlines with the voices here. Wow, have you been working lately? I am so, and again, I hope you don't mind me sending all of your information out. I'm amazed at what you do, as you know. So thank you for being here, Nancy. I appreciate it. Thank you so very, very much. Hopefully, this takes you away from some of the stress that, and I know you're like me. Well, a lot of you are. We're all very much the same way. We see what's going on in our country, in our world, in our country in particular, and it's so devastating and so nerve wracking. Uh, you can't believe how people act, but we're not going to go to the politics tonight. Tomorrow morning, though, Nancy, I'll be there with you. Okay, I am going to cover some things in the morning. All right, let's see here. Mike Guyver, you can do 126 push-ups per minute. Well, I never was that good. I was there, not even when I was in gymnastics. Nah, that's good. I'm impressed. All right, let's see. Yeah, deplorical. Do more. Get moving. The body adapts to our demands on it. If you demand to lay back and watch Springer, your body will optimize your slothful enjoyment at the expense of your mobility ability. That's absolutely right. We're made to move. We are. When I said exercise wasn't as important as diet, though, I still believe that. I'm not saying you can be sedentary. You have to get out. You have to move. Like I was saying, I do the walks. I take the stairs instead of the escalator. You know what I mean? I do some lifting. I've had some injuries in my shoulders and especially in my left bicep, which I lost um, during the same time. Well, anyway, there's a long story about that. It has to do with vaccines, actually, which I won't get into, and also some antibiotic treatments that I had to have for a little thing that happened. But it kind of deteriorated my bicep, and I lost it. But I still lift. And like I say, walk and do my sit-ups and push-ups and things like that. So yeah, you're absolutely right, deplorable. You can't stop moving, but I did find, like I said, that it's more important about what you eat than what you do. I'm not saying that you can't stop doing things, exercising, walking, moving around, but definitely what you eat is almost more important than anything else. Okay. Elson James says he fasts for 3 days every couple of months. Good, yeah, that's kind of like what Mike Guyver was saying. Do seasonal between seasons, do a little fast. So that's about the same thing. Good for you. That's exactly what he was saying. Yeah, Mike Guyver, you say a 3-day fast will reset your immune system. Exactly, that's what I heard, and also about the stem cells. Thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate it. Edelson James, thanks for recognizing his comment there. Deplorable. Yeah, no, there are times when fasting is not a good idea. And when you're saying, she's saying, if you expect to be effective in a possible Second Amendment conflict, fasting will hamper your effectiveness. No, that you're absolutely right. We're not talking about that. You need to carb up at a time like that, absolutely. And you need to eat well and get, normally in a situation like that, 2,000 calories a day is not going to do it for you. You just the stress alone, you're going to need to get up to 25 to 3,000 or more. So you're right. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Longevity. Yeah. Headlines with the Voice says I did a 40-day juice fast 2 months ago. Totally awesome. Wow. Yeah, see, I've got to be a little careful with juice myself because of the sugar involved. I got to be a little careful with that. But yeah, I could see where that would be good. Actually, you could probably do that I could probably do that if I cut out some other things. I could probably do that. So I'll talk to my folks about that and see what they think, because I really would like to do that. Carnivore, yeah, it's sort of like Jordan Peterson. He says he only eats meat. That's a little bit rough. And he admits that can be dangerous too. So I think there are other forms of protein. You don't have to have meat all the time. It's an easy source, but it's expensive, and some other things. Fish, of course, goes along with that. I do like fish. Well, up here in Washington State, I love salmon, but with Fukushima, I'm really careful. I know you're saying, what are you talking about? Hey, I know a guy who took a Geiger counter to a fish market in San Francisco. He doesn't eat the fish on the West Coast. Just saying. Headlines Over the Voice says she's 100% keto and loving it. Well, good. Well, like I said, I'm on a paleo system, which is very similar to that. But yeah, I actually I do notice I have more energy. I think clearer. Some of you might disagree with that, but in fact, I can tell. Um, so yeah, it's made a big difference. It really has. Okay. And that's headlines with a voice. Edison James says, "Wow, you did 40 days," and she says, "I could have gone forever, but started to feel like a freak around my family." Yeah, they start wondering what you're doing. I mean, it's like the politics, right, Nancy? Same sort of thing. They kind of look at you funny because they just don't get it. I understand. We don't consider you a freak, and you know that. Oh, this is it. Angira Lori Bloom says, "Hey Nancy, headlines with a voice. I'm a nutritionist, and once upon a time when I was very, very sick, did the same, and it saved my life." Now that I know is a fact. Not that I know your situation was a fact, but that yeah, when you're really, really ill with certain diseases, juicing is absolutely the way to go. Cut out everything but the juices. I agree with that. Um, in my day, there was a guy by the name of Jack LaLanne. Actually, I wasn't even in his day. He was before me, but I remember I remember him being on television. He was kind of the first exercise guru. This was back black and white television. Anyway, Jack LaLanne was his name. You can look it up on the web. And he came out with a juicer, and my parents got one, and that's when I first really got into that. So yeah, that's good stuff. It's a good way to go. Miss Priss, I prefer just low carb counting over paleo or keto, and I can understand that. And I'll probably move to that eventually. Yeah, I'll probably move to that eventually because high protein can do damage to you if you're not careful. You got to be careful with that. But of course, high carb can damage you too. Diabetes, things like that. So yeah, it the old saying is moderation in all things, right? That's really where you want to be. If you're thin, the best way to stay thin is just not to binge, right? You just moderation in all things. Enjoy all the different types of foods and all that, unless you have sensitivities, like I was saying with breads, gluten, things like that, which is what I found out about. Drink Irish coffee. All right, Lynn Lamont. Yeah, now you're talking. Or caramel cream coffee, like I do. Tonight, I'm just drinking water. That's all I've got here. It is carbonated water, and you might say, well, why are you drinking carbonation? Because apparently carbonation does slow down the metabolism a little bit. It actually does do that, I guess, in the muscles. It changes to carbonic acid, I understand. I don't know all the details, but that's what I've been told. So, you still got to, again, moderate yourself there. You don't want to be drinking this stuff all the time. But, this is flavored. It's a lemon lime. Yeah, but I can drink great. I love regular water, too, especially in the Northwest up here. I have a water purifier. It's an absolute 2 micron carbon block. And I'll go out to, like one of the glacier fed streams or rivers out here, and there are a lot of them, and just dip in there. The water will be emerald green sometime, and I'll just dip my water filter in there and drink that water. And I love that kind of water. I just really do. Okay, let's see here. Oh, okay. Larkstar 444 says intermittent fasting and keto are important for restoring insulin resistance, according to Dr. Berg on YouTube. Highly recommended. Seeds, Mike Guyver says seeds have arsenic in them, so be careful. True. Seeds, but I'm eating nuts. Maybe you're talking about somebody else who's eating seeds. Headlines with a Voice says, I love Dr. Berg. Now, commenting on Larkstar and Headlines with a Voice there, we've already talked about intermittent fasting helping your basically your resistance and your immune system and those things. But she's also saying it helps to restore insulin resistance. And I think I've experienced that. Now I'm not really diabetic in the normal sense of the term. I damaged my pancreas and I damaged my liver, so I'm not full efficiency in those organs. So I have some of those types of reactions if I'm not careful. So, but I have noticed that this diet definitely helps to keep those symptoms at bay. Another thing that helps is cinnamon. I use cinnamon a lot. Okay, for taste and for sweetening, and the cinnamon itself is also good for your sugar problems. Okay, at least it has been for me. Drink distilled water. Yeah, distilled water is great, and I usually do, or filtered water, reverse osmosis. There's an argument about, well, if you drink distilled water or reverse osmosis water all the time, then you're not getting the minerals that you need from water. But like I was saying, I do use a carbon block filter. I drink from streams, rivers, things like that. And the carbon block doesn't take out the good minerals. It's just taking out the poisons, the impurities. There's no chlorine out there, but if there's some type of chemical waste, it'll take it out. They're really efficient. As a matter of fact, I've used that filter all over the world. I've had water from places that, I mean, you wouldn't want to put your hand in it, much less drink it. But once it goes through that filter, man, it's perfect. Oh, that's just great. Something about Ebola exercise planners are needed somewhere. That's never a good sign. Okay, let's see here. What's Gavin Hillbold says, now you can wear that military dress uniform, Colonel Potter, and take charge. Yeah, fit back into that. Nah, that's all right. I wore it for off and on for 28 years. It's all right with me. Nah, I couldn't get anybody to pay attention anyway. Actually, I'm not. Nah, that's a long story. Yeah. Some interesting things might happen here in the next couple of months. I'm waiting to find out. Nothing to do with the military, but some other things. So we'll see. Who knows? I like my meat barbecued, Rusty Parker says. Yeah, I don't blame you for that. Miss Priss says rare meat means moist meat. Yeah, pretty much. I love taters, Precious, Lynn Lamont. Oh, man, I know. I've gotten away from them, though. Mike Ivers says vegetarian since 8 years old. Now, that's an accomplishment. Did your parents put you on that, Mike? Or was it something that you just chose to do? That's interesting. My wife was actually a vegetarian for most of her life. She kind of eased up on it when she got older. But, yeah, she was a vegetarian for probably 35 years. Yeah, something like that. You can have the butter, but not the rolls, right? Ladybug Nancy says that. Michael Friend, yeah, ketosis. That's what you get to is ketosis. That's right. Keto diet is getting the point where you're at ketosis. You drop the carbs so that there are no sugars, free sugars roaming around. Yeah. Deplorable, I agree. Try to get out of the U.S. healthcare system. Yeah, I agree. That's a good way to take care of yourself. I could tell you some stories about that, but not today. We'll talk just about the diet stuff, okay? Vegetarian is for wimps. I think that depends. I think some people disagree with you on that. Have you ever tried to eat out? When you're a vegetarian, have you ever tried? That's tough. You've got to be pretty tough to be able to do that, and you've got to be committed. Yeah, so I wouldn't say it's for wimps. Maybe you're using an acronym there that I'm misunderstanding. Missy D says eats once a day. Yoder's Natural has a great tonic, all beautiful herbs. It's wonderful for immune system, especially. Thank you for that, Missy D. I appreciate that. It's called Yoder's Naturals. Okay, good. Okay. Hi, the H2O2 protocol gave me my health back 10 years ago and still using it. Is that hydrogen peroxide? I thought that was HO, but yeah, it might actually be H2O2. Um, yeah, I think that's hydrogen peroxide. You chemists out there, it's been a while, but that's what it sounds like to me. Hydrogen peroxide. That sounds like what that is. And I heard about that as well. Actually, I tried some hydrogen peroxide stuff at one point, but uh, there were other things that I got on other than that, and it seemed to work really well for me for the other things that I was using. So, Edelson James, yes, your health is really all you have. Take care of yourselves. Absolutely. Replete is better than deplete. Good cardio, good for the heart. Absolutely. Losing weight is 85% what you put in your mouth. Right. John Ganshow just said that. That's exactly right. It's like I said earlier in the live stream, controlling what you eat and making sure that you don't overeat is more important even than exercise. I'm not saying not to exercise. I'm saying that you'll notice the weight loss more by controlling what you eat and getting rid of excessive carbohydrate. Right. Well, you can even get fat eating pure protein. I mean, if you get too many calories of anything, that's going to be a problem. So yeah, moderation in all things again. Well, deplorable, I agree with that. Yeah, focus on effectiveness, not longevity. Yeah, didn't uh, didn't Indiana Jones say that? It's not the age, it's the mileage. Yeah, so you got it right. I don't disagree with your philosophy, not at all, not at all. Susan, 4 years whole food, plant based, no processed oil, and never felt better. I'm sure that's true. I'm sure that's true. Okay, and I'll get eight says whatever works for your own body. Yeah, we're all a little different. Yeah, we all have to find out our own regimen. It's like I said earlier, Europeans really weren't supposed to eat potatoes. That's not in their ancestry. That was in South America, and I noticed that. As soon as I gave up potatoes, a lot of big changes. So that's true. And yet other people, like people who live in Peru, potatoes are fine, right? Because their ancestry used to eat those. Yeah, we've developed those DNA things over the years. Yeah, spirit physical removal of sugar carbs drops weight fairly quickly. Potatoes and rice contain starch, which are high in carbs. Yeah, exactly. So if you cut out, and I guess on the keto diet, I know some people that are on that, and they're telling me they can only have 20 carbs of carbohydrate a day. Well, my paleo diet doesn't require that. All it requires is that I don't eat, well, no processed foods, of course. The as near, not rare but not well done meats. Chicken's an exception to that, absolutely. Um, Hearty vegetables, leafy vegetables like spinach, kale, things like that. But definitely no carbs in large amounts. Absolutely, and you get enough carbs when you eat like broccoli, cauliflower, those types of things. They're carbs, but they're not like eating starch like in potatoes and bread. Yeah, so you got that right. So dropping carbs is how you drop your weight. That's exactly right. Okay. Now that's interesting. Leopard Dappy Girl says purple potatoes are low in glycemic index. Okay, that's interesting to know. And I'm sure those types of things exist. I like smoothies, Mike Guyver. I haven't had one in a long time, but I do like them. Oh, okay, this is interesting. Spirit Physical says most people with leaky gut can't do nightshades either, and many are allergic to lectins. Hmm. So it's great you can do nuts. Yeah, and I haven't had any problem. I mean, I don't eat cashews. I might have, a few here and there. Almonds are the big thing for me. Um, yeah, almonds are the big thing for me. Oh, Hank McCurk. So you know something about that. He says the reason the potato famine happened is because they only brought one variety from Peru. Well, it was also because wasn't it also a political thing? Weren't the British you know, somehow involved in that. It was kind of like a war against the Irish. I think that had something to do with it too. Yeah, the Irish Holocaust, Catholic Church complicit. They shipped out all the food. Yeah, I remember that more than the situation with the variety. Although, yeah, if they only had one variety and they somehow messed it up, yeah, that could be a problem. Where yeah, I could see where that could add into it. So I see both points. Okay, Saint Paleo or C Paleo, yes, Paleo. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Mike seems to know a lot of information here. Mike Ivers says the human has a long digestive tract, which is made for plants. Sort of like, cows have, what, 5 stomachs? Yeah. Not like a meat eater with a short digestive tract. Makes sense. The potatoes had not evolved enough genetic variability. Okay, I get you on that. Okay, let's see. Oh, what's this? DePorkle says, what about your Circise regimen? I'm not sure I know what you mean. Out go, Lieutenant Colonel. The legs feed the wolf. Americans don't really need to exist at minimum energy in a weight loss scenario. We need much muscle endurance building. Weight off. Okay, yeah. Robert M. Stahl says if we could cut out the sulfur, chlorine, fluoride, and aluminum from the air column and the magnitude of the magnetism we are missing and all those measurements, we would be doing better. I agree with that. And this 5G thing isn't good, but we'll talk about that later. I mean, just what we have now with the microwave situation that we have now and all the radiation around it, it's bad enough. I mean, yeah, problems there. Hank McCurk says it's because you were evolved to be a cavalry officer. I was an MP, sorry, and then I worked in MI as well. So, okay, we're about halfway through the list here. I'm going to jump to the end now because we've been going for an hour. I had no intention of making this long tonight, but I did want to talk about it a little bit. Well, let's see. Michael Friend says I have big hips too. Nice on a girl, not too nice on a guy. Yeah, I could tell you some stories about that, but not tonight. Over Michael Guyver, he keeps giving me good information here. Over 50 do not work out with weights, work out with body weight. In other words, I can see what you're saying there. But I lift light. I mean, I'm in reps, not in doing 300-pound deadlifts. I don't do that. I'd break my back. Used to be able to do it, but I couldn't do that now. Daniel Michael Cherrier says, I eat at night. Well, that's okay as long as you're not eating all day. You've heard all the old saying, somebody says, why are you so heavy? What are you doing? And the person says, well, I only eat one meal. And they're scratching their head, but it's a meal they're eating all day long, right? I eat once a day, but it's all day. Yeah, stay away from sugar. That's the big deal. Staying away from sugar. It's like I said, I wean myself off of. First of all, you all know that white refined sugar is as bad for you, if not, well, it's just as bad as white refined flour. So I weaned myself off of all those refined things, went to more substantial flours and of course into the raw sugar, and then I got rid of those as well. I don't think I've had you always get sugar in some food, if it's processed at all. You're going to get milk sugar when you're using cream, like half and half. You're going to get traces of this stuff. It's just you want to cut down on it as much as you can. Daniel Michael Cherry says, I eat lots of eggs and drink lots of coffee. You sound like me. You sound like me. Yeah, in the evening, I really look forward to that breakfast in the morning and sipping my coffee. Oh, I do. I used to hate coffee. I like the smell of it, but I couldn't stand the taste of it. And then I think a lot of people that have been on my channel know the story. In the army, they drink coffee all the time. It's called a cup of joe, whatever. Um, Cops drink coffee a lot, to stay awake on their late shifts. But I just was never into that until I had a Dutch sergeant major that worked for me in Bosnia. And I've told the story several times. I would get there early. He came earlier the next day. I came earlier the next day. He came. We finally made an agreement. Okay, Sergeant Major, you can come in first. And he says, "Well, I want to because I want to make your coffee." It was the most gosh awful stuff, but it was warm. So that's when I got used to drinking coffee. Okay. Yeah, honey is good, I suppose, but I even stay away from that. Um, Maybe I don't have to, but I'm pretty sure it's high in sugar. Okay, just for me. Yeah, Envy Me Great Bear says, "Oh no, Colonel, I'm from the South and my metabolism is super high. I eat what I want to as long as I exercise." Yeah, and there are some, again, this is always tailored to the individual. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I know people right now that couldn't gain weight if they wanted to, right? Because that's just their body metabolism. And I was pretty much like that all my life, of course, until, about 10 years ago. So as you get older, you notice that doesn't happen. Then some people, like I know a guy who retired from the Navy. He's 84 years old, something like that. He's 6'1", I would say. I'll bet you he weighs probably 170, 175 pounds, and he's been that way all of his life. Exactly like that. Okay, let's see what we got here. Miss Priss, you want me to name the protein bar? I don't know if I should do that. Well, I guess I could. I checked out, I'm not saying that Alex Jones stuff isn't good. For some people, it would be fine, but it was just too high in carbs for me. I get the protein bars from Costco. They're Kirkland brand. Um, and I also get a pure protein bar. That's the name of the make. Both of those are, you're getting 20 to 21, sometimes 22 grams of protein, and you're way down on the carb list. Two to four, maybe 10 on some of the types, but they're from Costco. So I think you can buy the pure protein bars. I've seen them in stores, but they're a lot more money, of course. But they're better than a candy bar. So if you get a hankering for something sweet, and you get a protein bar, yeah, you're worlds ahead. You're doing great. Oh, that's interesting. Constant Klostermeyer says if you crave sweets, raw honey and hot liquid helps you lose weight. If you eat cold, you will gain. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, Janet, we the people, she says, ditto on honey, use it instead of sugar. Well, that's for certain, yeah. When I was making the transition, I would use like sugar in my coffee and stuff like that. So you're absolutely right. It's just that I even worked off of that after a while. Okay, that I'm just saying for me, that's what I did. Between Mike Guyver and Deplorical, I'm having some laughs tonight. Deplorical says the mind needs the same conditioning process as the body. Watching the mainstream media continually is like eating fast food hamburgers 3 times a day. We know it's fake news, yet we can't help but gobble it up. Oh, you're so right. Isn't that how they've done? They've trained us this way. Yeah, we don't want to get into the news tonight, but I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. Tim Ryan says, I guess he's asking me this. What have your challenges been with restaurant eating? Do you look at the menu or just order what you want? Uh, I look at the menu and I usually try to change what I'm getting so that it fits what I need. Sometimes I have to pay a little more, or maybe I just won't eat something that if I can't change it. Yeah. Simple Fire says, Roy, your pH is off and chemistry is out of rig. Easy to fix, but takes time. You're doing it wrong. And you might be right, but I'm following the advice of the people that I'm working with, okay? The color that you see on here isn't my real color, okay? It's trying to adjust the color in the OBS. It's a little hard with the type of lighting and the circumstances I've got here. White is really bad. But I wore the white tonight. I looked at some other shirts that I have, and I was thinking, well, what kind of looks athletic? Well, that's why I'm wearing this. But when you wear white, it throws the white balance off because the white balance on the camera wants to focus on this, which is good. But when you take into consideration the green, anyway, it gets to be a complicated process when you wear white. So that's probably why I look a little odd. No, I look a little odd anyway, but that just added to it. So. All right, let's see. I'm going to move real fast now. Pork is very bad. Yeah. Oh, hey, Jesse, how you doing? Yes, pork is very bad. I don't eat pork. No. Again, you're going to get traces of it in different foods sometimes, but I don't sit down to a pork chop or to a pork loin roast or anything like that. Bacon, oh, no. I like the smell of it, but eating it is yeah. So pork is very bad, and there's a reason why we were told not to eat pork, and we've talked about that I think before in some of my videos about why pork is not good. It's not just diet bad for you in a lot of ways, but there are some problems with the DNA. We're not close to, as you know, we're not close to the simians. We're not close to the monkeys. You know, our chromosomes or the number and the form of them are closer to the pigs, which maybe we don't want to realize, but that is a fact. So it's almost like being a cannibal. So yeah, I stay away from that. Okay, let's see if I'm going to speed down through here because I don't want to go much longer, as I said. Trust no doctor. Well, yeah, that's true, but there are some that I have found, even though it depends. Okay, that's something you have to work out, right? Some doctors, no. I mean, doctors have hurt me very, very badly. Okay, yes. And then there are some doctors that I've come to trust that are very, very good. Okay, and I'll just say that, and I'm being guarded because I'm protecting them. Okay. Okay. Michael Friend, that's interesting. And I kind of knew some of this. He says, the cholesterol issue was started by the makers of Crisco oil. The body sends cholesterol to the arteries to repair them. Oils cause oxidative damage. There you are. Yeah, I can understand what you're saying. I remember back when they were trying to tell you to stop eating butter and to eat margarine because it was better for you, and that wasn't true. So yeah, I'm sure it's like with the Crisco and all that other stuff too. You're absolutely right. Okay. Wow, this thing is jumping like crazy. Okay, so this jumped down, so I've I missed a lot of these, but it's time for us to go anyway. It's been over an hour now. I saw BP Earthwatch saying something here, and I wanted to see Isaiah 65. Okay, I'm not sure I remember what that is offhand, but I'll look it up. I'll find out what that was since you suggested it. Okay. Tony Acehawk says if you go to enough doctors, you'll find one that kills you. You people are great. Okay. Don't eat swine oil. Oh, okay. You're talking about Isaiah 65. Is that? Yeah. Yeah, it says, as a matter of fact, Isaiah is cursing those who are the swine eaters. Yes. 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 And I am aware of that. Yeah, so I don't. I think I was explaining that. Like I said, it might get in something, but yeah, I don't. No, that's not good. And I agree. Okay. I'll let y'all go. You know, we don't want to wear this out, right? Wear out my welcome. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. It looks like, for the most part, the stream kept going. You notice I do have that little slight green halo. It's because I was trying to adjust. I wanted you to see the background more than me. Frankly, that's why. Can you see the setting sun? Isn't that neat? It's just beautiful. The world, the earth can be so beautiful in so many ways. So anyway, I wanted to put that up for you. It looks like there is let's see, I got to get it right. It looks like there might be, I don't know if that's actually a chemtrail or just, no, that's probably not a chemtrail. It's probably a condensation trail because it's not very long. But I didn't even know that was in the picture until I put it up here, and then I noticed it. It could be a lone cloud, but I don't think so. All right, again, thanks to everybody for coming. I sure appreciate it. And I will probably be up in the morning because I do have a little subject I want to discuss. It's kind of disturbing, but it's not surprising. I'm sure that Nancy Morgan-Hart will be up and running. Again, thank you, Nancy, for all you do. You folks, if you're subscribing to Nancy, she has a Patreon and some other things. She's not a beggar, She does say, if you value my work, consider, making a donation. So please do that if you would. Her information helps so many people in so many ways. We have a lot of good people in the Patriot movement, even though the deep state and many in the government hate us, and of course the corporations and all that. A lot of you folks are you're not just the salt of the earth, you're angels, okay? All right, we'll see you tomorrow morning most likely, okay? Thanks again for coming. Be safe, and we'll talk to you next time. Out here.